I was always just drinking a little bit and smoking weed, but then as like it progressed and I got hurt, I kind of turned to like, painkillers, right? And I always had a prescription for Adderall.
Today's podcast is brought to you by one of the absolute best real estate agents in the Cleveland market, Tom Sugar with Howard Hanna Real Estate. Tom's here to help you understand the home buying and selling process. He's here to ensure that you're also always going to get the best price, whether you're buying a home or whether you're selling a home, and his customer service skills are top notch. Give Tom a call at 216-406-2841. That's 216-406-2841. You can call or text him or visit his website, shugsells.com, SHUGSELLS.com. Visit Tom Sugar, everybody. He is the best. Well, man, welcome back, everybody. We're here in Costa Mesa with my boy Nick Massa. Nick has some really cool stuff going on right now. He's big into social media. You're doing a lot of videography. You've been working with poopies a little bit. What's going on, man? What's the journey all about?
Yeah, so I'm originally from New York, New Jersey, but I made my way all the way out here into California. I've been dabbling in the social media scene for a little bit of time now. Yeah, I just kind of connected with, different people out here, different social media influencers, marketing, stuff like that. And, I've crossed paths with Poopies and, I've been dabbling with him in just content creation. He's been opening so many doors for me and just stuff along those natures. But it's really exciting stuff, and I'm excited to kind of talk about it and
Dude, I love it. Yeah, I saw some of your stuff. That's how I met you, was through Sean. And you're fucking killing it. Why? Do you enjoy social media? Is it the videography portion? What's your favorite part about what you're doing?
See, I think about social media, it's pretty cool just because, there's such a big audience you can reach. Growing up, I always played sports and stuff, so I was able to meet a lot of people, but also it's kind of building a brand as well. So subconsciously, I was kind of already doing a lot of stuff in the social media space without even really knowing. A pivotal point in my life was when, my baseball career ended and I kind of got into social media.
You're crushing it. So, like why social media? Why did you decide to do this? Because, I think the other side of it is, you said you're playing baseball.
Yeah.
That had stopped for you. There was a time in your life, obviously, where baseball was no longer. And just to give everybody a little background, Nick played D1 ball. So that dream was very real for you, as far as going to the pros, right? And going
completely.
Into the league. So why don't you do that? Talk about that. Talk about those last days and understanding, hey, baseball's over for me. I have to make a change. What was that like? Where's your head at that time?
I think for me, growing up, baseball has always been such a pivotal point in my life. It's everything that I did. So when I got the injury, I tore my UCL for the first time, and then I later on tore it again. And that was everything I wanted to do, right? So growing up, it was to play professionally. Originally, it was to play college, and then, you play professionally. I remember I came back from this one injury, and I was killing it, right? And I was getting calls from, the Yankees, Red Sox, all this stuff. So my dream was about to become, a reality, right? And then it gets taken away from me, and I kind of was left there with, my back against the wall. And this is the first time in my life that I really had adversity. So I knew I had a friend in college that, his name's Jesse Boyce, and he kind of helped me transition back out of sports and kind of get into, a different scene. I knew I always wanted to stay in social media just because it was like, I never really wanted to work like that traditional 9-to-5 job.
Right.
Like, that was going to be like the death of me.
It sounds miserable.
Yeah, like
fuck all that.
Being stuck behind a desk, having responsibility to wake up, and it just wasn't for me. Right, and I always wanted to, kind of get into the entertainment business and just kind of, do stuff along those lines. So my buddy was killing it in this space, so I decided to, give it a shot. It really just started off as a hobby. Like, That was the first thing that kind of started gaining traction in it as, time came, right? And then I took kind of the same principles in baseball, like hard work, waking up, doing your craft, getting better at it, kind of stuff like that. And, investing enough time into it, a door sooner or later opened up for me. And after that door opened up, I was like, oh, wow, I could probably do this.
What was the mental toll for you at that point? So you had your eyes on the prize, right? This is what I want. This is where I'm going. I'm getting calls from the big leagues. When you realized that wasn't going to happen, how bad did that fuck with you?
Oh, that put me down a spiral of stuff. So, playing baseball a lot growing up, it's already a mental sport, right? So it's like you're pitching. I remember I was already hard on myself to begin with. So, like growing up and, having that like, all right, this is where my goal is. I'm already set it for the mountains. So if I don't get there, at least like I'll be somewhere in the mountains, right? And that's always kind of how I always did it. So especially when baseball was taken away from me, I didn't really know who I was, like, at all. And that was like something that was very difficult for me because it was like when I centered my life around baseball, my whole life, to strip that identity from me, I'm left there with, nothing. So my main way of coping was through drugs and alcohol.
Okay.
And that's kind of how I coped, because it was like when you're playing sports and you're doing a bunch of stuff in those fields, like it's hard to mimic that type of feeling, especially like playing under the lights. You know what I mean?
There's
like,
nothing like
there's
it.
nothing like
Nothing
it. So
like it, dude. Nothing. What was your drug of choice?
My drug of choice? Well, growing up, I was always just drinking a little bit and smoking weed, but then as like it progressed and I got hurt, I kind of turned to like, painkillers. Okay. Right. And I always had a prescription for Adderall, which is,
which is everybody that's our age, bro. Dude, for real.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And I really testify a lot to this because it's like normal fifth graders, man, like you're like talking a lot, you're in classrooms, like you're doing a lot of normal fifth grade stuff. And then next thing you know it, I'm taking Adderall at fifth grade. I don't even know how old that is, but I just remember sitting inside of a classroom and I'm just laser focused on this chalkboard and everyone's like talking around me. That's just not normal.
Right. Of course. I agree.
So I have this medication now and I've taken it for a bunch of years. And I think this really kind of progressed my drug addiction just because it was like I was used to that Adderall high because Adderall produces such a high.
I'm the same way, man. Yeah, there's like a euphoria behind it.
Dude.
Yeah.
Insane.
It's
like,
amazing.
I don't know how they get away with like.
Dude, all right, so I used to work at a high-end car dealer in Cleveland, Ohio, a couple of them. And I had a client telling the salesperson, somebody, one of our high-end clients had said to somebody, he goes, yeah, it's prescribed cocaine. Is what it is, dude. And it really fucking is.
Yeah, the thing is, too, it's like I heard that, and I heard like legal meth.
Yeah, I've heard legal meth. I've never done meth, thank God. I don't intend on that. So, painkillers, what were you doing, like Perks?
Yeah, Percocets, Vicodin. After my first surgery, so it was more along the lines, like it wasn't just dabbling in it. I mean, I was too, because like subconsciously too, I was probably like, okay, I don't feel good. Like, this makes me feel extremely good. Right. And then, I was already taking Adderall on a daily basis and like, taking that for prolonged 7 to 6 years, you're going to get a tolerance to it. Right. Yeah. And I was already taking such high volumes of it. Right. I remember when I was like in 8th grade, I already had the max prescription of everything. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
You were turning it up in 8th grade.
Yeah, so I was really like in prime time, like using without even realizing it and like not even aware of it.
So, yeah. I mean, that's crazy, bro, because you're right. That's exactly what that is. You have built a tolerance. You're a child still, but you're a full-blown addict almost at the same way.
Full-blown, like, addict, like, and then I get hurt, right? So, like, now I'm like, okay. Well, and I realize that Adderall and stuff, because, you do a little research online. They tell you literally everything.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, well, like, this is kind of like a painkiller as well. Like, it helps you with, like, inflammation. So my genius ass was just like, okay, well, like, I'm hurt. I need to, like, still pitch and play at a high level. So I was like, okay, well, if I take this, I won't feel as much pain. And then I was introduced, painkillers after surgery. So I was like, wow. Like, okay, but every time I took a painkiller, I would go down a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, how do I,
It's all about balance with the drugs.
Balance, right? Yeah. So I was like, well, I got this other thing in my hand. Like, maybe if I just take them both, like, time it out perfectly, maximize, and I won't be tired, but I still won't feel pain, so I can still go out there and throw low nines, still play at a very high level. And this is when, like, the thinking and, like, all this stuff really started to go downhill because I was like, okay, well, like, I started to identify, like, myself and my performance and my success with drugs. So I was like, okay, well, if I wanted to be successful, it came in a pill.
Did you get a euphoria from the painkillers too?
Yeah.
Yeah. What were you using? Like, at first it starts with like low 5s.
Yeah. And then you kind of build up a tolerance just it started off with such a low dosage, and then I just kept progressing.
Right.
Yeah, and then that opened the door to just so many other things. Fortunate enough, I never got into like any serious hardcore stuff. I was able to stop it before that road.
Right.
I didn't really destroy everything at that point, but
And you're one of the few.
oh,
Because most people, even that I know, that's how it all started. You know, and it, for whatever reason, it always starts with an injury.
oh yeah,
But everybody seems to end up shooting dope.
oh my god,
Everybody. And the Adderall's not enough, so they smoke crack with it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and like that's a lot of the people that I've met, even doing some of these interviews. And some of them I haven't even aired because I'm like, man, I don't know. That's a little raw, dude.
Yeah.
I've done some, dude, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's great conversation. What was your rock bottom moment? What was that moment when you're like, okay, I can't keep doing this?
I think it was after my second injury because I was in the prime of drug addiction, but I also had baseball. So like I still was getting like society's hurrah, like, oh my, like you're doing well, bro. Mm-hmm. Like you're doing extremely well. Like you're killing it. Like you're getting all these calls. Like in society, you're killing it. But like inside, like it was killing me.
Yeah.
So now you take that identity away from me. So like, what do I have to offer, you know, on a daily basis? Like everything I did was around baseball. So I can't even go out there and play. Right, I don't even feel good enough to walk out and be on a field. And it reminded me of everything in the past.
It was like a trigger.
Yeah, so now I'm just left in my room in college. I remember I came back and had my own apartment, right? Well, literally did I find out it just allowed me to do my drugs by myself and completely hide everything, dude.
The isolation's a bitch. I talk to people about this as much as I possibly can because you don't want to isolate. That's the last thing you want to do, right?
Oh, yeah.
And for me, when I went through mine, I'd gone through a bad breakup, and then immediately following that breakup just made a string of horrendous decisions.
Oh, yeah, you never make good ones.
And I was just out of my head, blaming everybody else and their grandma for my problems. I was a mess, dude. And yeah, I totally feel that. I totally feel that. Do you think, like, what was your relationship with your parents and your family like at that point?
My relationship with my parents, so growing up, too, like, we were always like kind of tightly knitted, but like my dad was always like, I learned from him, so it was like work hard, like do your stuff. Like he always traveled, like he had his own business, architecture business, and was always doing, you know, things that required him to leave the state. And at the time, like I would look at that and, you know, he's my biggest role model growing up, and I still think he is my biggest role model. But every time I talk to somebody that talks to my father, it's like, you're exactly like him. I took that mentality from him and I adapted it into my own life, right? It's like, it's what you see is what you know, right?
And that's the whole purpose of the podcast, I swear to God. I mean, I think that's the coolest thing is to be able to talk to different people like you do with your dad. You took some things that you love and you put those in your tool belt. This is what I like. And that's why I always like to do this, because your story is actually really interesting, and I think it's most interesting because you didn't end up down the road of shooting dope. There was a point where you ended up stopping, so it does show people that it is possible. And you know, you were lucky you didn't ruin everything in your whole life, to make it happen. Because for me, dude, I was at ground zero, and I ruined so many relationships and did so many stupid things and told so many lies. I was a fucking mess, dude. So to see somebody that's got out of it kind of clean, if that makes sense. So did you end up going to rehab?
Okay. I went to rehab came back after my first injury, and then I got hit with COVID. I had to leave my apartment, right? And so I left my apartment in the city, and the only place I could really go was home, right? Because I was in ground zero of COVID. Like, I was in the Bronx. Like, the first case ever was down the street from me.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy. So, like, when all that stuff came down, I thought it was, like, zombie apocalypse, like, and I'm already a little like out there just because I've been using for so long. And like at that point it was, you know, I started introducing psychedelics and stuff like that nature. So it was like, I'm all over the map.
Yeah.
In a low grade, probably psychosis in college, while actually performing at a high level, putting it together, I had to come home. And because I got nowhere to go, they told me to leave my apartment in college. Like school's like, you got to get out of here. Wherever you go, we don't care where you go. You're just not staying here. So I come home. Again, like nothing really changes besides I just bring my drug addiction home.
Right.
Now I'm in a house with my mom and my dad, and yet alone my younger sister. And I've been living this lifestyle for, you know, a good 1 year or 2 years, so it's normal to me. Like, wake up, you know what I mean, used. And this time I lost it again, so I was like, okay, well, the pain's bad. The first time, at least, it was kind of in my control. This time, I got taken away from a season, and I was like, I don't even know what to do.
Yeah, you're destroyed mentally.
Yeah, and I was kind of like, I had big expectations for this year because I came off, and I was kind of, getting a name for myself at that point, and it got taken away from me again, and I thought I was going to get drafted that year.
So that was a big year to miss.
In my mind, everything shattered again. Like, I just lost the season. I'm going to be on the shelf for a year. Like, that's how my brain automatically went from it. I didn't get injured again at that point. It was just an unfortunate something out of my control happened, right? The whole world shut down, right? So I'm sitting there, and I'm now have this drug addiction inside my house. My parents are like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, this is normal. Like,
you don't think anybody knows,
they would
dude.
be like,
everybody knows. Yep.
And you realize once you get out of that and you look back at it, and you're like, oh my God, dude, that was bad.
Oh, yeah.
That was real bad. And you're like sitting there and you're like, wow, you came so far, Nick, but also like, what the hell were you thinking?
And I think that's something we all struggle with. I think the tough part, too, is like looking back and knowing you can't change any of it.
Yeah.
Because even for me, like, there's a lot of times where I wish I could go back, or like people I could talk to and say sorry. But I kind of deal with that now, is understanding that sorry wouldn't fix it. You know what I mean? Like, me saying sorry to those people wouldn't change anything. It wouldn't bring anybody back. It wouldn't make it better. Wouldn't take the pain away. It's just like, just let it be. Yeah. And that's it. That's kind of what I have to do now. But yeah, that's tough. So you go to rehab then?
Yeah, I go to rehab in that COVID year.
Okay.
And I'm sitting in this rehab in New Jersey, and I remember I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, well, I'm not. These people are shooting dope. Like, I ain't an addict. You
weren't ready.
No, I was not. Bro, they had me. They were looking at me like they were like, uh-huh. And I'm like, nah, like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, I got this under control. Like, and this is where I met this one kid in my life. I've only known him for 2 months, right? And I grew this bond with him because he's my roommate in this facility. And he teaches me everything. And, I thought I was like some woke person because I took mushrooms a couple times. So, like, I had all the answers, right? And this guy named Alex, unfortunately, he passed away, following that year. But he introduced me to so many things in life. And he was able to open my eyes to so many things. Like, hey, man, like, yeah, like, they did something to you, but, like, look what you did. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what do you mean, bro? Like, yeah, but what was your part in this whole situation? Like, where were you? Were you emotionally available? Did you show up? Were you sober in the relationship? Yeah.
And you sit back, right?
Yeah. And
you have to. I went through a very, very similar situation. I feel like I played a big part in it, in the sense of I don't think it would ever happen if I wasn't using. I was just a lying piece of shit.
Yeah. That too.
And that's I think what was a contributing factor. But you never want to blame yourself for somebody else's actions either. All I can do at this point is take responsibility for the bullshit that I've created and the things that I've done, and just kind of keep fucking trucking, And if those people want to come back around, they want to have a conversation and tell me I suck and I'm a piece of shit, then go with your bad self, bro, because there's no one harder on me than me.
Oh.
You know what I mean? There's nobody harder on me than me. So, I mean, that's not something that would even faze me at this point. But I appreciate you sharing that. So that was first round of rehab. You get out of rehab, what's going on there? Where's your head at? How are you feeling? Or do you still got it?
Yeah, and that's the problem right there. So I think I can control this thing, right? And I was abstinence-free of drugs and alcohol, but I wasn't living a life of, integrity, recovery, or anything along those lines. Right. And that was the hardest part for me, because it was like, well, I always assumed, like, okay, you're an addict, right? Well, like, I don't do drugs, so how am I an addict? Like, I'm not an addict no more, right? So I'm living my life, and I'm going, and
take some pictures.
So the only thing, like, now, like, I'm left with is just myself, right? And I'm sitting in, I'm still home, right? Because I come out of rehab and I'm home, and it's only like a 45-day program, right?
Okay.
And I got to come home and I remember, the next thing I was supposed to be doing was going to go play summer baseball out in North Carolina because, my season, I was fortunate enough to get asked to go play for this like extremely well team. Like Justin Verlander used to play there when he was a kid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like it was legit. Like my host family like had professional players. Like I remember that year we had like 6 or 7 people go to the draft, even the first rounder.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was legit, right? So, and it was perfect for me because I was like, I'm not going to sober living. Like, how do I get out of this, right? So I was like, I'm going to take this and go to play baseball in North Carolina. Like, hands down, like I'm doing it. And that was the worst decision of my life, I think. Because now I'm left, I was put into a new state, and my only way of coping was isolation. Of insane.
I spent, so the combined total was 3.5 weeks without leaving my house.
Yeah.
And without doing nothing. I would order food. I mean, that's why I'm like 215 right now. I sit usually comfortably at like 190.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting around, I'm doing nothing. I'm smoking weed. I'm fucking just being an idiot, bro. So I totally feel the isolation.
And the thing is with summer baseball and everything, it's like you're playing summer baseball, but you have to go live with host families, right? So I'm in this whole new city. I'm in this whole new town. I'm with all these new people, and they don't know who I am. That's one thing for sure. They don't know who I am, right? Being kind of in recovery, I was like, and I had a sponsor who was like, you should probably tell them a little bit. Because I'm still a little bit insecure about myself and my addiction, right? And because I don't even think in my head that I'm an addict, right? So how do I don't sound like I'm some hardcore addict doing painkillers and like smoking DMT in my room. Right. So when I put that out in the universe and I put that outside and like allow people to hear that, now I can't really surround myself and be going around the kids that do that kind of stuff, like just drinking and smoking or like stuff like that, because it's like, well, something's not adding up, right? Something doesn't add up. Like you say you're not using, but you're using, right? And I remember I was just sitting in their house, and we had this little part of the house, and I was just lonely, bro. Like really lonely. Like I had a roommate for a little bit, but he would always be going out, doing things, hanging out with people. But I didn't know how to have fun, like sober.
It's tough.
Like I had no idea. Like everything centered around like having fun it wasn't like going for a hike. Like that wasn't a thing for me. So like I didn't. Nowadays, like I can go for a hike and be like, wow, this is awesome, man. Like I get to see it. Like this is beautiful. Like the whole process, like being sober and all that. I mean, back then, like nah. Like the only thing I thought was being fun was playing Madden or like MLB The Show and The House, and just distracting myself for hours.
It's so funny you say MLB The Show, bro. That's all I was playing, dude.
Yeah.
In Road to the Show mode,
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there and I'm just playing godly amounts of video games, and there's one benefit of. In North Carolina at that time during COVID was that they had this 24-hour gym that they allowed like 24 hours. So my time schedule was like all messed up, right? So I got games at night. I'm playing from like 7 to 11, right? And I'm coming home and I'm not tired, right? So I remember and I would come back and it'd be like 12 o'clock, right? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not tired. Like, so I play a little bit of that movie, The Show, and I'm like, okay, well, it's like 3 a.m. Might as well just stay up to like 5 a.m. Right, go to the gym at 5:30, like, and now I get back at like 7, right, and now I'm like actually starting to feel tired. So I would start to sleep throughout the day and wake up at like 4 p.m. and I'm not seeing daylight, bro. Or if I am, I'm seeing daylight from like 7 to 8, and like that's when I think like everything really started to like depression, all that stuff seeped in. Like I'm a big believer of like get out and go in the sun. Just because I lived so much time in the dark, like figuratively and like literally.
Right.
When they say like, you're in addiction's dark period of life, like, bro, I didn't see the light, like in any type of way. So I'm sitting in the darkness, feeling the dark, but I don't know, man. It sped up really fast. And I just remember feeling really lows, and I didn't have drugs and alcohol to cope with anything. But at that, I wouldn't change that though. Like, you know what I mean? Those moments and those times where I was really like alone and I wasn't like socialized, like they taught me something about myself that today I'm able to look back on and be like, that experience isn't lost. Like, did that suck ass? Like, yeah. Like I would never go back. But if I didn't have that pain today, or remember that pain, using drugs and alcohol would seem so much more appealing. But like now, since I think of like, okay, like you know, I'm still a little bit younger, and like it's like 24, and all my friends are still going to bar. Well, now I can see and be like, well, like it's one sip of alcohol, and the next thing you know, I'm going to be using painkillers and smoking fucking DMT. Like that doesn't even like, and I know where that will bring me. So I'm like, no, like
It's not worth it.
Not worth it at all.
Yeah, it's scary. It's probably really scary too when you know what your triggers are. You know what I mean? And being your age especially is a big thing, because you're right. That's everybody, dude. That's all they do. Right? If you were to ask a girl out on a date, I don't know if you have a girlfriend or not.
No,
but like, what does she want to do? She wants to go get drinks.
Yeah, always, bro. It's like the first thing they say.
Hey man, let's go grab a drink. It's like, yo, I can't.
Yeah.
I mean, I can, but you don't want that.
And that's something hard, because it's like at that point in my life, I wasn't okay with like sharing this side of myself. Like I wasn't gonna get vulnerable. Like hell no. Like I'm not gonna tell you anything about myself. Like I'm some tough dude. Like I need to put on this act. I need to put this mask on, and I need you to think about me like this, because if you don't, I'm gonna be thinking what you're thinking about me, and this is gonna be the back and forth of like.
So you're playing ball, you're driving yourself crazy here.
Oh yeah, insane.
When did you relapse?
I relapsed, so it's actually pretty like off of straight willpower and like not really working a program. Like I remember I went back to school and I had a coach that was like pretty like I was able to be kind of transparent with, which is like really rare for me.
Okay.
You know, and like that's something that I don't do. So I was able to kind of talk about it a little bit, feel uncomfortable, because I'm just like, why am I talking about myself? Why am I actually talking about like stuff that I struggle with? Like that's a sign of like weakness, right? And all these like stereotypical stuff. But he was able to set me up with this, you know, former player that played at Manhattan, and he helped me big time, just because he was in the program, right? And I would say stuff, and I just know, because like now sitting in my position, I'm like, dude, I was like full of shit.
Well, hold that thought, because yeah, bro. I'm gonna call him out. His name is Sean Payne. He was my boss in Bedford, and at a Mitsubishi dealership I was at out there right after I went through this breakup and lost my other job. Dude, I never once showed up to that job not hungover. Multiple times on like I've been up for 48 hours, haven't slept at all. When I finally, you know, started changing, started fixing some things about me, we had started to speak again. Actually, it was only a couple weeks ago we spoke. He goes, "Isn't it funny you don't think anybody knows?" Isn't it fucking hilarious? You don't think anybody knows. You look back now, you're like, I'm a fucking idiot.
But you think you're like, yo, I'm like Batman, bro. Like,
Yeah, you think you're slick.
at night, like I am this different man, and during the day, nothing. Like you can't tell.
Right.
But then you're like, oh my god. I'm getting to the point in my recovery where like I'm gonna be sponsoring people, and people come up to me and talk to me and like meetings and stuff. But I see myself in them, so it's trippy as hell.
See, and I'm not like full blown sober.
Yeah.
But so, and I never pretend to like run a strong program or anything like that.
Yeah.
I know, you know, my big problem was always cocaine.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
The
that was my big thing, and then it became worse when I started mixing Xanax with it.
Oh yeah, up and downers.
Yeah, I did.
It's a little speedball for you.
Yeah, I did. The last hurrah with it was in May, the 24th of last year. A ball of coke, maybe a little bit more, and snorted 3 Xanax bars. I was just ready to die in a 6-hour span. So
No, it's that real though. It
Yeah.
gets that serious. People always ask me too personally. They're like, why were you like doing that? I'm like, well, first off, I believe there's like no such thing as like, recreationally doing heroin. Like you're not just like, oh, my life's going great, I'm gonna do heroin.
right.
You know what I mean? Something inside of me was broken, and I didn't care, like whatever it was, to get out of that situation. I'm not feeling that way for any longer. You're just like more and more, bro. Tolerance, like that thing's real. Like you got to go another one. You know?
Yeah, it's more and more, and I always laugh because I remember just trying to trick myself, being like, no, dude, you don't have to do this today. It's all good. Or it normally, that thought for me at least was in the mornings, because I'd be driving to work on an hour or two of sleep, fucking probably still drunk, picking coke out of my nose.
Oh yeah.
Thinking about all the things I did wrong to lose my last relationship. I'm just miserable, right?
Dude.
And then I'm like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm sick of feeling like this. And then I get out of work, second wind hits me, and we're off to the races for another night.
the battle for me too is like, because I tried to stop like way before, getting to the low of my first rehab. Like, it would be the same cycle of, it's Monday right now. Well, like, I'll do it till Wednesday, right? But Wednesday, I'm gonna be a new person. I got it all figured out by Wednesday, and then I'm like, I'm already halfway through the week, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Friday's right there, but like Friday, I'm a new person, and then Friday would come, and I'd be like, well, it's the weekend, dude. Like, how, you can't get clean on the weekend.
We'll just do it Monday.
Yeah, Monday. But Monday, dude, that's me. Like, I'm good Monday. Like, so it'd be that same cycle, and that shit went on for like 6 months to a year, bro. Of the same, like...
That was me, too. That's like same time.
Quitting Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Like, that was the cycle I played in my mind, because I was like, I don't even want to do this shit no more.
You get sick of yourself.
Oh, dude.
You get sick of yourself.
Fast. Like, I don't want to do this. But I couldn't stop. Like, I legit couldn't stop. And that was the worst part for me, because it was like, I knew I was going to be getting drug tested. God forbid I didn't get hit by the NCAA for a drug test.
Right.
Waking up every day with that anxiety, I need to stop for this drug test, but I can't. That was the battle. Okay, if I want to play at the next level, like, you can't have I'm supposed to be taking
you have opioids in your system when you're getting drug tested. Yeah, they're not going to be into that.
Yeah, so like, if I wanted to play at the next, can't be using drugs. No exceptions. Like, I don't care who you are, but I would play that in my mind, like, okay, well, if I did get caught, right, how do I spin this, right? Do I just go full blown, like, I was really depressed, like, how do I spin this in my favor? And
it's wild. That's where your head goes. It's not, boom, let's stop. It's, how can I fake this out?
Yeah, how can I fake this out?
It's crazy.
But that was a constant battle for me. Any month I can get drug tested. How do I get these drugs out of my system as fast as possible? Potentially being picked, scariest, like, didn't eat. I would probably lose 10 pounds. Not even from what I'm using the whole time, too, right? It's just based off like, anxiety and me being a head case. And I would lose weight that fast because I was like, dude, I can't stop and I need to stop. The main guy at that point, I was like, well, if I get, like, my teammates are going to hate me, bro. They need me out there. So, like, the team's relying on me. My coaches are relying on me. And they're thinking, from my understanding, they're thinking I'm all good. You know what I mean? I'm doing my stuff. But realistically, like, people are looking at me like, what the fuck is this kid doing? This isn't, like, this is going to catch up. Like, I don't know when it's going to, but something's going to hit me one time. But I would just keep, like a bulldozer, bro. Keep going through it.
Yeah, it didn't matter that much at that point. It was about the drugs.
Yeah, the drugs.
Okay, so you're full-blown within college baseball at this point.
Yeah, hardcore drug addict.
A hardcore drug addict, sick of yourself. You already know what's up.
Oh, yeah. Now I'm starting to kind of pick on, because I'm like, at this point, I'm coming back, right? It's after the COVID. I'm back at school, and I'm still miserable, and I'm like 7 months clean and sober at that point. And now I'm back on a college campus, and I'm trying to stay sober and clean, and the only way I know how to do that at that time was to isolate myself.
Okay.
Because how am I going to go out? You know what I mean?
Especially in college.
Yeah. Like, how am I going to go out and be in a room at a bar and be like, no, I can't drink that. So the only way I knew how to not do that was to remove myself from the situation. I didn't have any friends that were, living the lifestyle I was wanting to live. 2, I didn't know how to even do it. And 3, my addiction started to grab me again. And just in terms of, like, I wasn't using, but, like, my thinking was at that point where it was like, I'm not going to open, like, all this stuff I needed to do, like the vulnerability, getting honest, humility, all that stuff, I wasn't doing.
What were you using to relapse? What was that?
So at the point, so I'm clean at this point. And I remember I just went through this, like, big breakup with this chick, right? Just like yourself. I felt understood by somebody, right? And in college and being in this, dude, I spent every waking second with this girl, right? It's like she was sleeping over. You know what I mean? Like, I'd see her in the first thing in the morning. Like, it was almost like it was like being married in this, like, relationship, right? Yeah. And, like,
there's a lot of comfort behind that.
Oh, dude, so much comfort.
Yeah, there's a lot of comfort behind that.
And then me being an addict too, bro, there's, like, this power distribution, like, where it's like, I felt like she was her own drug in her own instance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
makes sense.
She was this drug and I'm this addict, right? And I kind of feel us, like, separating and stuff, but, like, me being the addict I was, how do I manipulate this? And, like, how do I bring this back into a form where it's like, you're not going nowhere, right? Because I need what you're giving me.
Right.
And that was like another battle with stuff. So I remember this relationship it's on the end, right? And we're already like kind of breaking up, kind of not breaking up, like, and all this stuff. And yeah, shit just got really wicked. Because now I'm like, everything collapsed.
Right.
And the girls, man, they're devastated. Like, that's a whole different blow, bro.
It's a different one. I think even for me, I think the hardest part was I was a lying piece of shit, doing the wrong thing, and then that was the only person ever in my whole life that was close to me that rather than just taking my shit and going, oh, that's just Roger.
Yeah.
That was somebody who held me accountable.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it at the time. I look back now and I couldn't be more thankful for it because I'm not here. I kill myself 100%.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just miserable, man. And so, but yeah, man, that's tough. That's a bitch, dude. So do you start doing drugs while you're with her then, or after the breakup?
So I was using, and that was the year before, right? So I'm using, but like at this point, I'm back on campus. I'm sober, and my relationship's now going to shit.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, dude, I can't get away from this. Mm-hmm. So I'm left there, and I'm like, that was the only thing left at that point, because it was like I wasn't getting any like stimulus from all these drugs and alcohol, and this was the only type of like thing. I mean, the only type of person that understood me, and I don't even know how much she really understood me. She probably knew me a lot better than I thought she did, but like me being the head case I was, and not being able to be present in the relationship, me being able to be emotional.
But that's what makes it worse, though, right? It's like you were putting up with all my shit, trying to make me better, and then I just fucking burned you, dude.
Yeah. And then the person I was like, okay, like she's the bad person, like look what you did to me. And that's where like I'm able to see that now and be like, wow, like Nick, come on. But I don't want to say it's like after that instance I decided to relapse and do that, but like because there was so much leading up to that, bro. If I was like doing what I was supposed to be doing and all this, that would have been a lot more manageable. But like I remember that happened, I'm not going to feel happy in my own way.
How long ago was that now? You're young, you're 24.
24, that was when I was 22, so 2 years ago, 2.5 years.
Yeah, I think it's important, like for me, I won't date right now.
No.
I won't, because I'm just not there.
No.
I think I would be a shitty boyfriend. I date Ubi. That's all. I just come out here with Ubi, my producer. Right, Ubi? I'm just kidding. But no, for real, I won't date right now because I feel like I just feel like that's not where my head is.
Yeah, no.
And I feel like in a lot of ways this might sound kind of weird, but I already feel like I found that person and lost them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So
100%.
I just really don't feel like I'm even close.
Yeah, I feel like for me too, is like I finally was able to give out a part of myself, and I opened the doors, which is, I never did that in the first place. So I allowed it out. Now, if anybody tries to get in, like you're gonna have to break open a safe.
Did you let her in, or did she kind of pry the door open on figuring you out? Because like mine was more, I was getting figured out.
Yeah.
That's more how it came to me, but she gave me a trillion opportunities to say, hey man, like my house burned down, right? And I told her I had renter's insurance and this whole story to make myself feel good.
Yeah, dude,
right?
That's crazy, right?
Right, but the reality of it is that wasn't true, and that was even before her. But there was countless things like that. I couldn't even name all of them. And I'll tell you what, neither could she. There were so many.
Oh, yeah.
And but she, like, getting broken down like that, it's scary to be vulnerable for people like us.
Oh, yeah. Right?
We're afraid of that, probably because, I've been burned in the past by people. I don't like people knowing really what's going on or where I'm at or what I'm doing. So to have somebody break down that wall for me, man, it was huge. I mean, that's why we're here, and for you, that's gotta be tough still.
I think for her, and I'm just going off based off assumption, she was, we were younger at the time, right? And I think she was a little bit younger than me. She was about 2 years younger. But she was doing probably the best she knew how to do. Like, she was obviously, like, I say I was kind of like I was not an open book. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, me neither.
Completely. Like, but I thought in my head, the narration I told myself was like, yeah, like, you're telling her what you need to tell her. Like, she doesn't need to know about this because this is not good. Like, I don't want to bring this into this because she's going to either think something of me and then leave me. Like, that possibility of leaving me,
That's all it ever was for me.
Cut it. Like, that doesn't even exist.
It's like, yo, this is the best thing I've ever had.
Yeah.
This is the only person I've ever cared about this much. But you know what's weird? I don't know if you've ever thought about it like this. Because I had a therapist ask me, he goes, did you love her? Mm-hmm. And I, with all my heart want to say yes. But that's not how you treat somebody you love.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like that, I think, to this day, and I think about it every day, but I'm excited to maybe find that answer one of these days.
Yeah, and
because I don't know, because I feel like if I said, yeah, I really love that person, I feel like it would be insulting. Because, like, you don't treat people like shit.
Yeah, that actually just hit me hard right there.
Yeah.
Because, like, now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, damn. Like, my first thing was like, nah, I loved her. You know what I mean?
Oh, me too. 100%.
But then it's like, you think about it, you're like, well, do you lie? Do you hide things? Do you, And it's all these crazy things where, like, yeah, it makes you think, man.
But what sucks more than even that is understanding the time and the energy and the heart that that particular person put into loving you and knowing they did, and that, it doesn't really fuck with me anymore. It doesn't keep me down. It motivates me to be better. But I think that is an important question to ask yourself. And I think it's important to me now because I do look forward to that day where I can say, listen, I truly love somebody.
Yeah.
And get to that point. But that's crazy. So we'll get back to it here. You're in your room. You're isolated. You can't be around these people. What was that moment where you decided, I'm going to go get fucked up?
So I remember it was like I was able to hold like sobriety and clean time for like probably 2-3 months in college. And then all this stuff went down with this chick again. And I was just like, no, like I got to do it. Like, boom. And I remember I literally just took a sip of alcohol. And the next thing you know, I just railed a line of Adderall. And then I was just looking for any type of way to find like opiate on the streets because I don't have a prescription at this point.
Oh, okay.
So this is when it's like starting.
Are you eating them or are you snorting them?
Snorting them, eating, dude.
Okay,
anything.
whatever. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like at this point I'm like, well, I don't have this prescription. I know how this makes me feel, so I need to get this fast. And at this point in time, this is like when all this like fentanyl stuff was coming out.
Yep.
And all this kind of dangerous stuff. And I remember was doing anything I could to find it. And I was trying to make shift at that point because I didn't know anybody at that point because I never had to buy it off the street, let alone find it for myself.
It's a hard life, son. You go on those quests, bro.
Yeah, the quest. Literally, like, so I'm going, like, dude, I remember I would find myself in the worst parts of the Bronx in New York looking to get some. And nobody knew this about me. Like, I remember I would randomly, like, leave and people would be like, where were you? I'd be like, no, I was just, like, putting in work for baseball. Realistically, I'm trying to find like somebody that could supply me with some good drugs that weren't going to kill me.
Yeah.
And like that was the biggest secret for me. I started to even believe the lies I was telling myself. I'm putting all this work in to get back on the field. I wasn't even going to the gym, bro.
Which is why lies perpetuate.
Oh,
if
crazy.
you believe what you're saying, and you sound like you're in the same boat I was at that point, is you perpetuate, I got away with that one.
Yeah, how do you keep elaborating the story, right? I remember I was telling this to like my ex-girlfriend, and like her friends were like, something's not adding up. I'm like, what do you mean? Like in my head I'm telling this,
and you're just gaslighting the fuck out of her.
Oh dude, I'm like, I wasn't even aware of what gaslighting was at that time. I was just doing it. So I was just like telling my friends were like, that's not adding up. Like he said he was there, now he's there. Like all this stuff was, but in my head, like the narration I was telling myself was making sense. Okay, well, like I was there, like all these places. But in realistic, like there was flaws in my story, big flaws. There were red flags everywhere, and it was just a matter of time until she saw them and she was like, okay, like I can't, you know what I mean? It just got to that point where it was just like no more. But I just remember like every time I would tell the story, like something changed in it. Because I wasn't even in my right mind to keep the story alive. And it's so hard to keep track
That's the problem with lying. You can't keep shit straight.
And you can't even remember it, bro. Like, I'm like, I don't even know what I was saying.
Yeah, I mean, and it's the hard part about it. I feel like any relationship or any, even, friendship, for that matter, right? I mean, you have to be transparent. You have to be. We had a situation the other day where we found out somebody wasn't super transparent with us, and it's just like it puts you in a bad spot. You know what I mean? It puts you in an awkward situation. It puts you in another situation. And unfortunately, in this particular situation, we lost $300 technically, and that's fucked. You know, but you know it's crazy too. You probably look back now and you're like, yo, like, why did she stay? Why did she tolerate it for as long as she did? You know, and why was she such a kind person, just such a shitty person at the time? And sometimes, man, those people I feel like just come through our lives for that reason. You know, and they make us better, and we'll never find better. I mean, that's how I feel right now. I fucking hope I'm wrong.
I know, dude. And I'm starting to get to that point where I'm like, damn.
But you know what's also cool is once you hit this headspace, at least for me, it became one of those things where it's like, wait a second. If I ever want to claim to have said that I really love that person, then I have to be willing to say, I do want the best for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want you to be happy. I want you to kill it in your career. I want you to have beautiful children and be an amazing human being, just like you are now. That's what I want. And the only bitterness that's left is the one for myself.
Yeah.
You know? I know you feel that.
Oh, yeah, I could feel that. And it's like, you know, as I progress along my journey in recovery and stuff like that, and you know, you get to this big amends step, right? You write down all the people that you hurt, right? And my first, like, couple people I wrote were ex-girlfriends, boom, right off the bat.
Yeah.
And the way I thought about it was like, oh, I get to talk to these people again, right? I get to, you know, hopefully, like, have a relationship. Well, my sponsor was like, hold up there, buddy. You know, maybe your amends to this chick is never speaking to her again. And that was the hardest thing that ever hit me, because it's like, I say that I loved her, I did all this, but like, and like you were saying, like, all you want for them to have now is success. All you want them to have is a family, a beautiful family, kids, all this stuff. And tough, like, maybe I'm not in her life.
It's hard to reason with it.
Like, I maybe need to, and like, that's something I am not, I wasn't ready to hear at that moment, and that's recent, bro, like, where it's like, I gotta stop doing damage. You know what I mean? Because I'm not using, but like, create a hellstorm if I wanted to. Right, we all can.
Man, I got a 6-year-old son. So in my situation, she was very involved. I mean, she was with him for half his life, you know, and the way it ended was fucked up. But let's just say, theoretically, I was the only person that did anything wrong in the whole relationship, right? And when she left, obviously the intent was to get married. I had a ring. Mm-hmm. My son loved her. We had a place together. We were talking about buying a house and doing all these things. And then all of a sudden one day it's gone. But it goes to show you what your actions can create.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, for me to look back and go, well, I selfishly wish you would have stayed to see this part of me and all these things. It's like, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Right? That'd be so cool to meet that person right now.
Oh, awesome.
Right? Because that person would love me. I'd be honest with them. I'd be honestly able to say I love them back.
Yeah.
But just like you said, sometimes that amends, like my amends, mine's court orders. So I can't make no amends there anyways. That's not happening. But I wouldn't, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't anyways. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't anyways because I already did enough to you, man.
Yeah.
You know, I already did enough at that point. And it's not for me to reach out. I am apologetic. I'm sorry. It is something that I think about. I swear to God, first thing in the morning when I wake up, there's parts of it that eat me up all the time. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, I've done a pretty good job, I think, recently in the last like 6 months-ish or so of turning that into motivation.
Yeah.
You know, because like, you know, I can't change any of it.
No.
You know, as much as I wish I could. But what I can do, though, is show all those other people that I can make amends with that I'm worth it.
Yeah.
You know, was it really difficult, or did you have anybody that you went to make amends with that didn't want to hear it?
So I'm back around this cycle, and the first time, you know, I really didn't go through my program the way I was supposed to. Mm-hmm. So I kind of just did it to get through it and get this guy off my back, my first sponsor. So I remember I was reaching out to people, and And they were just like, nah, like, you don't seem like you've changed. You know what I mean? Like, there's some type of hidden, like, why are you doing this, right? I wasn't this new person. I wasn't living my life of this. So hopefully this time around, I'm able to, you know, be face-to-face. Because there's a lot of people I got to go up to. And I want to sit face-to-face with. Like, I want to be there and be like, and say, hey, I'm sorry, and listen to the pain. Because I think it's important for me to see what I did to them. You know, I want to sit there and see and be present, obviously, and sit there and be like, okay, like, Nick, like, this is what you did, but not like go there and be like, oh, but look what you did. Like, you know, like, none of that stuff. Like, sit there and be like, hey, like, I'm genuinely sorry. I messed up. Like, I messed up big time.
Today's podcast is brought to you by one of the absolute best real estate agents in the Cleveland market, Tom Sugar with Howard Hanna Real Estate. Tom's here to help you understand the home buying and selling process. He's here to ensure that you're also always going to get the best price, whether you're buying a home or whether you're selling a home, and his customer service skills are top notch. Give Tom a call at 216-406-2841. That's 216-406-2841. You can call or text him or visit his website, shugsells.com, SHUGSELLS.com. Visit Tom Sugar, everybody. He is the best.
You're playing baseball. You're in the middle of an addiction, a hardcore addiction. And that's a lot, actually, to maintain it once, dude. To be playing baseball, in a relationship, doing all these different things. And then you said you got hurt.
Yeah, so when I get back on campus, right, and this is after that COVID year and, you know, through that huge breakup and all this, and now this is when the lying really has progressed, right? So I'm saying to people that, hey, like, I'm going to go work out. I'm going to go to the training room, get some treatment for my elbow, the stuff I was supposed to be doing, right? So it sounded good. And I knew how to phrase it to make it sound great. So realistically, I'm going on this hunt to go find drugs. I'm going on this hunt to go get high. I'm going on, you know, all these adventures that have nothing to do with baseball. But everybody thinks I'm doing baseball. So, you know, you add that up over time, and it's like, well, I'm putting so much time and effort at this. Well, this is, you know, it's where you put your time and energy. Well, that's going to sacrifice, right? So now I'm not doing the stuff I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm already predestined to injury, right? Because I already had an injury, and I had a UCL, so it's a ligament. So you're supposed to be doing treatment for that, especially if you're going to be playing at a high level and you're going to be putting that workload and stress on your elbow.
Oh, yeah, you're a pitcher, too, by the way.
Yeah.
Nick's a pitcher, for those who don't know.
So I'm supposed to be doing all this stuff, and I'm just not.
Booby's a catcher.
But I'm supposed to be doing all this kind of stuff, right? And I'm just not doing it, right? So now I'm going to the field, and now my performance is starting to take like a side turn. Like, it's like, okay, what's really going on with this kid? Because it's like, I know we're in fall ball, and we have scouts coming because based off the last season, I'm doing really well, and we have all these guys that are going to get drafted and all this stuff. And my velo's taking a big dip.
Right.
My stuff doesn't even, I look like a shell of a person, right? While in addiction. So I have now withdrawals because I'm not finding the stuff that I should be, like, I can't find, right? I'm not finding the good stuff or, like, the stuff that I'm used to taking. All I have is now, I think I still have my Adderall prescription. I would replicate, like, you know, painkillers with, like, smoking a bunch of weed and all this stuff. So I was, like, pretty much, like, I'm high out of my mind when I'm playing, and I'm trying to take Adderall to compensate for all the other stuff, and it's just like I'm not that, like, and that would hyphenate all the anxiety. So I'm a head case, bro, on the field. That's the last place you want to be a head case. So I can't even. I'm a shell of a person, and I'm just trying to I'm just trying to make it to the next second, bro. Right? Yet alone try to perform and try to get to the next level. So all that stuff started to really speed up, and like, I was like, oh my, like, the baseball is probably not it. Like, I'm destroying this as the second and minutes go on. Right. Like, I'm pitching, and what I used to remember is all these scouts writing stuff down, staying for all the inning, now they're just leaving, bro. And like, that's like kind of like a blow on my self-esteem, like everything that, you know, because that's another form of adversity, because it's like, why is he leaving? And it's almost like bringing me to like, why did other people leave out of my life? You know, all this stuff. So I'm just like, head case. And I remember like getting to the point where I'm like, okay, my elbow's starting to hurt, all this stuff. I'm not the person I am. I'm the shell of I am. Like, I remember I lost, like, I went down in the rotation just because, like, my coach was like, what's going on with you, bro? Like, you're still going to be starting, but, like, you got to get your stuff together. Like, something's wrong with you. And I remember just, like, instead of talking about it, doing the classic, addict mentality, just going through it, taking more drugs, all this stuff. And that later on, fast forward a couple, weeks, we got the season right around the corner. I remember we had a scrimmage, and this was like when I was finally putting it back together. Like, I'm slowing down the usage. I'm getting over the withdrawals, not like through like detox or anything, just like
Going through it.
Going through it, bro.
It's the worst.
That's the worst part. Not having like a medical attention. Like, detox is God bless that place, bro.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I'm finally getting over this hump, and I go after this scrimmage, this inter squad, my last one before my first start of the season. And I finally, my stuff looks, I somewhat look like I'm putting it back together. Like, velo's shooting up a little bit, the slider's looking better, change up everything, command, like punching out dudes like I usually do. And I remember, because of all the stuff that I wasn't doing, like going into treatment and whatever, finally caught up to me, and I popped my UCL in that inter squad in like the last inning. And I remember too, because I felt it before, and like my mentality was go through it. You know what I mean? So if I maybe was able to like stop in that moment, I probably could have saved something, but I couldn't. You know what I mean? So like everything caught up to me at that moment. You know what I mean? And I was like sitting there, and I was like, remember having this thought where I was like, this is it. Like, this.
You tear your UCL again. You said you were like, you felt it going to be going bad, and then it went bad.
So leading up to that, like I was saying, like, I was supposed to be doing all this other stuff. I'm on all these adventures to find drugs, do drugs, just not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm getting over the hump of all this withdrawal. So like, I feel like that part of my life is finally, we're on the back burner. Like, it's in the rear view mirror for once in my life. I go and I, get ready for this inter squad. Everything, it feels good. I start pitching. I start to look like myself in a very long time, at least 6 months. And I'm like, okay, like, the light's here. Like, it's coming together, whatever. The inter squad, like, I remember ramping up because I got to start the next week. So like, I'm throwing 4 to 5 innings. I remember in that 4th inning, something like feels weird, but me not being able to stop, always going, like, came out for the 5th. Whatever. The weather was getting bad too, so it was like the last inning. So I remember I felt it again, and I'm like, oh, dude. And I have to come out, and I'm like, oh, like it, and I'm trying to like play it off like it's a forearm. Mm-hmm. I think I even said it was a hip flexor.
Oh,
like,
really?
Like completely different body.
Yeah.
Just to throw everybody like. That's when like my anxiety started to really pick up again. I'm like, oh, dude, like, what do I do now?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have no idea, and I haven't got an MRI or anything, but like, like, I'm left with my own device in my head, and
plus you felt that pain before, so you kind of knew.
Oh, I'm like, yeah, but like, I'm trying to remain positive. I'm like, no, like, everything's good, like, let's just get through it. And later on, I figure out that I did pop my UCL again, and the only way I could play again is if I got another reconstruction surgery. So I didn't even process that when it happened. I tried to just avoid, and I went right back into using heavy again, like instantly.
I was going to ask, that was my next question, is how long did that take you?
Seconds.
How long after, so that happens, baseball at this point is done?
Yeah, done.
And you had spoken about earlier, like, had taken a toll on you. What was the final moment? What was your rock bottom when you said, I need help?
All that ends, I get the MRI results. I'm headed back to campus, and I'm on the car ride back, and I get a call from the doctor. And the first thing I did was I didn't even answer it because I was like, I know. So, and I wait 5 minutes. And I'm taking a ride back with my mom to campus. She's dropping me off. And then as soon as I get out of the car, I pick it up, I talk to it. I didn't tell nobody I got the call, like anything. And he told me, and I remember being so nonchalant, like, oh yeah, like, playing it cool.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, he gets to give me the call, and then he gives my coach the call. Then I start getting calls from my coach. This was like literally, I think, one of the last times I actually spoke to my coach in like a year following that, because I would just like, everything shut down.
Right.
And the only thing I knew was I had an apartment. I was going back there my whole team was leaving to go play a series the next week. So now I really don't have anybody to hang with. So now I'm just left with myself in my apartment, no sports again. Felt this pain again, but it was 20 times worse.
Right.
And I remember just going really through my addiction, and it took and I was in that addiction for about a year, because I was so like, no, I don't need help.
So that lasted for about a year after that.
Oh yeah, a good year.
Okay.
But throughout that process though, and like I don't even know how I really put it together, but I was like, okay, well, like I was always dabbling in like video editing and making stuff and all that. So I started really doing that. Like I would get like messed up, and I would just do that. Spend hours in my room and do that kind of stuff. And I didn't really do it because I liked it. Like it was just to distract myself. Like, how do I pass time to get to the next moment or whatever? You know what I mean? Because I don't know what I'm doing. Like, yet alone, I'm not even going to class. So, like, the only reason I went to class was to play baseball.
Just straight survival mode.
Yeah. So, straight survival. And now, of course, I'm editing. I'm doing all this video stuff and whatever. So, I do that for a little bit of time. And then, the next thing comes to next. It's like, I have to leave and I have to go back home. And I knew that I wasn't going to go back to campus. They were trying to say like you could rehab it, all this kind of stuff, and like I was just like, yeah, I was playing along with it.
Right.
And I remember I even played along with it until the following semester, where I was still on the roster because I was probably going to try to come back or whatever, figure it out.
Right.
And I did it. You know what I mean? So I then progressed in that I was at home now with all my old friends, and the only thing I did with the cope was to go to bars, right? Mm-hmm. And drugs and alcohol, I met a lot of people too, right? And a lot of people and I always kind of shared like...
It's not always great people either, huh?
Yeah, no, not the best.
No.
Not the best. Not the best that are going to help you, stay on this path.
They'll be your friend in that moment, but the reality of it is probably because they're dealing with something similar, and definitely something similar as addiction-wise, because we're all here for a reason.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I knew it was bad was when the guy I was picking up from was like, dude, like, I think you should slow down. I'm like, I'm like, who are you telling that? Like,
yeah, dude, when your drug dealer tells you to stop, bro, that's when
that's a problem.
Dude. Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, dude, like you're like coming like every week and like, you're picking up a lot of stuff and I'm like, dude, like I'm paying your rent, bro. Like,
yeah, like fuck off, get my drugs, bro.
Yeah.
Because you were like just so bad. So how much money were you spending
on just like
just drugs?
Just
drugs and alcohol. Drugs and alcohol.
I know I was bringing all the money in from like social media, and I was spending it straight on drugs. Like I didn't have to pay rent or anything because I was living back at my parents' house. So like 1,000 to 1,500 almost a week and a half.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Just like with everything.
Yep.
And I know like I was the type of dude too that was like, everyone knew I had drugs, so like I would always like give some out and this and that. But every time I got like down to like the end of it, I was like, don't talk to me. Like this is grind time. Like until I pick up again. So I remember like that's when everything started spinning. So now I'm at home and like, dude, my drug addiction's so bad. We're like, I'm taking such high quantities of just everything that like I'm staying up for like 48 hours. Like, and I'm leaving and I'm going to the city to go hang out with people that, aren't necessarily the best of me. I had two different types of crowds I would hang out with. The crowds that like were good for me a little bit, but like I would only hang out with them when I was high. Mm-hmm. And then the ones that when I wasn't high I needed to get, like I would hang out with the other people that I always kept like to the back, like nobody knew about. Yeah. Nobody knew about. Like, and I hid from them. Like I hid from everybody else, and that's where I would get all my drugs, right? And I remember I was like, in the whole time too, I'm still like building my social media, but I'm not there. Like, dude, I can't even, like, yet alone like show up and be responsible. Like, I can't show up present. I'm not gonna show up anywhere on time. Like, if you say meet at 1, like I'm gonna be there at 5.
Yeah.
And it's not because like I don't respect you, right? It's just because like I literally like I'm in this constant battle where it's like two people going down a mountain, dude, and meeting in the middle. It's like Lord of the Rings type stuff.
Right.
Like I need to survive. So I know even some of the jobs I was getting paid for, I wasn't even to hold them, right? Just like videography stuff. I was working with a bunch of artists in the city. I was working as a social media manager for some of these athletes and stuff like that. And I wasn't even, dude, I couldn't even be. I was not.
You couldn't even be reliable because you weren't even reliable to yourself.
No, I couldn't even.
Yep.
But to land clients, I would always speak to talk the game. You know what I mean? I could land you and I could get your money, but as soon as you gave me your money, that was just to survive to get the drugs.
Yeah,
right?
and then once the money's gone, that doesn't matter anymore.
And the only time that I would, want to talk to you or whatever is when the next month will come and you need to pay me again. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, and that's a lot of people that I owe amends to. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I still have to, find ways that I can pay that back in forms that are just like, not even just like giving money, but just like, how do I contribute and like be better and like make amends? But then I remember like it got so bad again, and then everything was so bad, like all my relationships went to shit.
What was the rehab moment?
The rehab moment
where like I have to go back.
Go back to rehab. So, it was just like a typical Monday morning, and I wake up and I'm like, why are there so many fucking cars in my driveway? Right? And I walk downstairs and I'm living with my mom at this time, and it's my whole fucking family. Yeah, dude. Intervention style. Like, this man Mark comes up to me, I think his name was, and no, Brad's his name, the interventionist. And Brad comes up.
They brought in an interventionist.
Oh yeah, they went
everything.
Big dogs. They went big dogs for me. And Brad comes, shakes his hand. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing in my house? You know what I mean? He's like, hey Nick, this is Brad. And Brad's like, hey, can you sit down? And I just see everybody with a fucking piece of paper.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I can't. Like, what are you guys doing, bro? Like, I'm not even high for this right now. Like, all this.
Yeah.
And
I'm not even high for this.
And and I'm sitting there, right? And I'm like, thinking of any way I can get out of this. Like, I know I'm supposed to go play golf with my boys in Philly. And I don't. And 2 days before that, I crashed. I totaled my car, bro. I hit a light pole. Like, God forbid, no DUI, no nothing. I wasn't like anything like that. So I had no means of transportation.
That puts you down too.
Yeah, so I'm like, I have no escape route. So now I'm sitting here and I got my family, I think like 6, 7 of them, all reading papers to me, crying, and I'm like, oh, dude. And I just remember, like, I'm just trying not to even listen. Like, I'm just trying to, like,
be anywhere else but there.
Yeah, and like everyone's looking at me, and I remember my mom finally got to my mom, and she just broke down, and I looked across and I looked at her and I was like, oh. Like, I see the pain that I've caused, like the chaos, the everything, the shambles that I've put my family in that I didn't even think like they were suffering from.
It's funny you say that, because like for me to compare, I went to my family.
Okay.
And bro, I was such a mess.
Oh yeah.
And because it was like every night, I'm getting drunk, getting fucked up. And like prior to this breakup, was doing none of those things. I'd go out and drink excessively once in a while and smoke some weed, but I wasn't doing anything else. I was just a loser of a person as far as lying to my ex, but I wasn't getting fucked up. And I'll never forget, I went to my brother and my sister and my dad outside of a bar. And we were all drinking at the time, and I just told them the problems I was having. My dad had similar issues with cocaine in the past. And my dad had pulled me aside, and he goes, I'm gonna give you one piece of advice. And he had been through this with my family before. He goes, don't tell anyone else. And I was like, okay. Now at this point, I've already decided I needed help. So my thought is well, he's an addict. I'm telling everybody else.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm not trusting that. So I go around, I tell everybody else, this is what I'm going through. I went to my Uncle Shane and told him, and man, no one gave a fuck. It was so weird.
Yeah.
No one was like, what can we do to help? No one was like, everybody was literally just like, yeah, Roger's fucked up. But everybody's like, Roger's just fucked up. And I still look back to this day, and if I could do anything different, I'd have never said anything to them. Yeah. I think me saying something to them contributed to a lot of why we don't talk, we're not cool. But like, like my sister, for instance, I've never met a more worthless human being while I was like struggling so bad.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in like this hateful way or anything like that. the harsh reality of it is super simple. Is I didn't come to you for attention. I came to you for help.
Yeah.
I came to you to tell you what I'm struggling with. And then it was just like, yo, fuck them, you know? That's how it felt. And I think that is a lot of what ended up motivating me. And where I'm going with this is I think it's so cool that you have a family that would do that for you.
Yeah.
Because I needed that in that moment. I needed a hug. I needed someone to tell me they were there for me, whether it was a friend or whoever. And I either burned so many bridges at that point where they didn't care to do it, or they just didn't care to do it.
Yeah.
And so I think like that's why my family and I really don't get along. Not all of us, some of us, but that's interesting. So definitely be thankful for that, because that is definitely something that I wish I would have had when I needed it. You know, I think that's super cool, man. I think that's super cool. So you go through the addiction, all that stuff. Now, here we are on the other side, bro.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're fucking killing it.
I know, dude.
You're fucking killing it. This is a good part. So just describe to everybody like what you do, and then give me your why. Give me your why you do it.
So, you know what I do for like work and kind of stuff like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so right now, you know, I was fortunate enough to like, you know, re-pursue all that social media marketing stuff.
Right.
So like I was able to, you know, continue working with athletes, entrepreneurs, musicians, all people of that nature. I was able to somehow salvage that in my reputation and bring it and be present now. So it's awesome to be like able to be here as a new person and do the job that I was always supposed to be doing, but do it to the 110% ability that I can do it.
All right.
Because like at first when I'm doing it, I'm working at 30%, if that. You know what I mean? Like there's no, like I'm out here like, so I'm able to do.
Well, as soon as you run out of drugs, nothing else matters,
dude.
right? Like that's how it is.
So I'm able to finally like be present, be able to show up for people and stuff like that. So I'm able to make money from doing it. I'm able to, you know, not work that 9-to-5 job and make connections, you know. Necessarily to get paid off of just like networking, meeting people, you know, doing cool things like that. And then, you know, over the past 6 months and the 7 months that I've, you know, been on this journey is like, I've been able to meet and be fortunate meeting people like Poopies, Zach, and all that kind of stuff, and, you know, get into that field, like more videography and stuff that I originally actually started this off with, right? So to see that come back, and now me being like, have a new relationship with it where I'm not sitting in my apartment, dude, like using drugs just to time, like now I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, like this is cool. Like this is what I always like saw myself doing, but like never had the time or like wanted, like, because I was the drugs.
Dude, I feel it. Because like it's crazy for that. You start doing the right thing.
Yeah, dude.
And then all of a sudden great things start to happen.
Great thing. Beautiful.
You know, that's fucking crazy. So you do a lot of social media marketing. You work with athletes. I know you do some videotaping and stuff like that. I always finish my podcast. Is there anything else you want to say?
Anything I would like to say?
Anything, that you want everybody to know? Anybody that maybe you want them to know about you?
Yeah, so, you know, throughout my journey and everything that, you know, I experienced and stuff like that, I kind of kept it, you know, hidden, right? So, like, I didn't really want to share it, but, you know, what I've realized over the time and stuff like that, because I never really thought it was going to get better, especially, like, but if you put the foundation down, you know, you do the work, you know, you show up, you be present, you live a life of integrity, you know, you do all these cool things that, you know, it's almost like the opposite of what I was doing. It just gets better, man, you know, and it's exciting to see, you know, the relationships that I get to build, you know what I mean? Get to meet people online like you guys and just like get to share my story, bro, and like have like a life where I can, you know, inspire, but also just like build relationships. Like it's been an honor just to be on this podcast, bro, and just also like.
No, I appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
more
so
than you know,
thank you.
because that's how we met, man. And I actually did want to ask you about that. When you, because I want to use this for my tool belt, when you have friends that you had done wrong in the past, or you know, lied to, or done something bad to, do you feel? Because the way I feel about it is like sometimes I feel like I can't harp on that.
Yeah.
I have to just move forward, and I feel like maybe some of those people just want me on my knees saying sorry all the time.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? But it's like at some point, it's not that I'm not sorry and not that I don't care, but it's like I have to move on.
Yeah. And I think for me in that specific situation is like, okay, I know I did stuff in the past, right? Because my road's not clean. But what can I do today to make sure my side of the road is as possible clean as possible, right? So like, I think, you know, if I do make my amends, but I live that life of integrity I was talking about. Like, I do the right thing.
I like that. The road is as clean as possible.
Yeah, I have to make my road as clean as possible. Because if I make my road as clean as possible, I did everything I can control, bro. You know what I mean? I pick up the phone. I try to help you. And I think that's the biggest thing for me, too, is like when people have done stuff to me, it's like now, and I see this is like where the recoveries really took a foundation, is when like I'm able to look past the print, like all that stuff and stay with the principles of my program. Principles over personality, right? So it's like my principles: be a good person, be of service, all this stuff. I'm able to look past the person that, you know, and I can see that they're just struggling, bro.
Yeah.
Like I was once, you know?
That's crazy. And it's all true.
Yeah. Crazy.
So I always wrap my pod up with this last question. I always ask, how happy are you on a scale of 1 to 10? And then if you're not a 10, what do you think you could do to get yourself to a 10 or closer to a 10?
I'm a low 9 to like a mid to high 9.
Let's go, dude.
See, 10 is just because like I got all these like goals and aspirations. Like I see myself, but like the thing is like I bet if my goal is, I'm still not going to be a 10, right? Because there's always going to be that next, and that's something I'm personally getting better at. You know, because I've always like, okay, well, my happiness is in the next place, but I'll never be happy now.
Right.
You know, and I think right now is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Can't give it the whole 10, but like, dude, I'm a very extremely happy person. I've got great relationships right now, and everything in my life is going in the direction that I was always supposed to be going in. You know, I'm able to show up as a good son, you know, be the brother that my sister was always looking for, be the friend. You know what I mean? All this kind of cool stuff. And, you know, as this journey progresses, I can only see it getting better. So, you know, that's, you know, a wrap for what I got to say. But again, thank you so much. And
dude,
it's been
seriously
awesome.
Thank you. If you ever need anything, holla at your boy. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And we'll be back in like 2 or 3 more days with another episode.
Awesome, man.
Gang, baby.
Thank you.
Today's podcast is brought to you by one of the absolute best real estate agents in the Cleveland market, Tom Sugar with Howard Hanna Real Estate. Tom's here to help you understand the home buying and selling process. He's here to ensure that you're also always going to get the best price, whether you're buying a home or whether you're selling a home, and his customer service skills are top notch. Give Tom a call at 216-406-2841. That's 216-406-2841. You can call or text him or visit his website, shugsells.com, SHUGSELLS.com. Visit Tom Sugar, everybody. He is the best.